web development course. And I've also taught a few batches Python as well. And this is something that we have started a Python course, dedicated Python course for students. So since you're here, I think you already know that there's a lot of demand for Python out there in the market. Python is like one of the most popular languages that developers starting off want to learn, right? And for good reasons, it is like that. Okay. Um, all right. So yeah, that's me for you. And going forward, I'll share with you what is the basic agenda for today's class, as well as the two other demo classes that we have tomorrow and day after. All right. So I'll share with you the agenda there as well. I'll pass on the attendance form that I have created for you people as well in a few minutes. And there are some people who have this audio problem. So this generally happens if you have not selected the join with computer audio option when you were starting the session. All right. So Nikesh, Malikarjun, these people, if you can please disconnect and rejoin using the computer audio option, so you'll not have the issue. All right. All right. And apart from that, as I was saying, so the agenda is there, which I'll share with you shortly. There are a few things like for today, whatever I've been teaching here, we have muted your microphones for good reason. But I'm sure like most of you would have questions or most of you would want to go back. So what we'll do is we are recording this session, and as soon as the session is over, somewhere around like 8 o'clock it gets over. So give us a few minutes. We will send you an email wherein you'll get the link to the recorded session. You don't have to record. We are recording it, and we will give you the link through in the email that we'll send you after the class. Make sense? All right. Cool. So this is a 1 month long course. We have a few structures in place. What we'll be doing for the free demo classes, most of the stuff is going to be communicated to you through an email. If you have any logistical questions, some operational questions that you would want to ask, like anything apart from tech, whatever we discuss in class, you can also email us at python@atenu.com. This is the email address, python@atenu.com. So whatever other questions regarding any other questions on the course as such, like the certification or when will we complete it or anything other than normal tech, you can shoot your questions to your to this particular email address and we'll reply. All right. So that's one thing. Okay. So this is another thing. Who's this? Shrikant. uh, Please do not try sharing or annotating or anything like that. We are just going to have a lecture. There's no use and no this thing for any kind of screen share. If required, I am going to do the screen share and show you things. All right. So please make sure you don't use the sharing option stuff. All right. Now, any other queries, like during the class, if you have few questions here and there, what you can do is you can use the Zoom chat option. So some of you might be new here. I'll give you an overview. My video would be coming to you in the largest space in between, like right in the center. And apart from that, you can have these participant windows and the chat windows there. If you don't have it open, you can look at the wherever you're running it from. There'll be some button there which will show you the chat history here, right? So whatever questions you have during the class, if you have any doubt regarding what I just said, you can let me know in the chat options. Okay, so that will be your go-to way of interacting with me or with the class other students. All right, so I'll be regularly monitoring the chat window. So that's one thing. Regarding the other options, as I've said, you do have your share screen options, you do have your video sharing options, but that needs to be turned off for the time. Like we are not doing anything apart from just having a Python lecture. So no video cameras or no screen shares from your side. All right. Um yeah, that's one thing. So get yourself accustomed to this particular Zoom interface because we'll be using this again tomorrow as well as the day after tomorrow. All right. And currently I can see 156 7 students somewhere here. All right. So uh, all of you have to find that chat window, and I'm going to share the attendance form for this session on the chat. So this right now, whatever I pasted, you need to copy this and paste it in your browser. All right. Can everyone find this? So yeah, just go to that particular link and fill in uh, uh, your name, email, phone number, and your uh, feedback if you have any submitted. All right. So this will be the attendance for you. Okay. Now the next thing is the course syllabus. As Divyam has shared on the chat window, you can see this. This is basically the course syllabus, if you want to call it, what all we have planned for this particular course. All right. I cannot see the attendance link. Okay. Let me just reshare it. Yeah. This is the link that I was talking about. All right. Can I register and get into the full class? Yeah, of course. So these demo classes basically are going to be held till Friday, and yeah, you're free to register for the main track. Like that, that'll happen after our demo classes are done with. Okay, so no issues with that. All right. So I think you are now like well accustomed to whatever we are going to do here. Like you have a fair bit of idea. Okay. So the link is working, right? Yeah, as Rohit and please clear the link. So it is working. I've also tested the link. It is working. So you can go there and fill the thing. All right. And again, I'll repeat for people who are not able to hear me, it is because of the issue that you have not selected the right option while joining. Join with computer audio is the option that you want to choose. All right. Cool. So yeah, that's sorted for now. Now let's do this. Uh, let's jump into the course and let's give you an overview as to what we are trying to do here. Let's give you an overview as to why Python is so much in demand. Then we'll have a bit of hands-on. I'll show you how we are going to code, like how and where we are going to write the Python code. How do you run it? How do you get the desired output and stuff like that? All right. So that will be an overview for today. And from tomorrow, we'll basically get into the syntax of Python. All right. So let me share my screen. And if you have any doubts, just let me know in the chat. All right. Cool. Okay. So hope everyone can see this particular screen now. Yeah. So the outline for today is we'll start off with what is programming, the comparison of the popular programming languages. I'm assuming like most of you would be beginners here. So this is a course which will let you like it doesn't assume that you have any background in computer science, so that's one advantage here. So we'll start off with the extreme basics. Some of you might know this, but it still needs to be covered. We'll cover what applications basically Python is the most popular for, and the actual core of Python we'll start off towards the end. All right. And then finally, from tomorrow, we'll start off with the Python syntax. We'll also cover the data types in Python. So this is the agenda for our demo classes. All right. Very short, very simple. And but do keep your sincerity in the class, because missing anything out is not a good idea. All right. Cool. Okay. So what is programming? In very simple words, I'll not make it complicated. Programming is any interaction that helps a device understand what a developer or what a user of the device actually wants out of it. Okay. So basically, there's this device that I am running. I am using this Zoom software on. This is one device. This is a laptop. And on this laptop, there are ways that I can interact with the laptop. All right. So basically, for now, you can see this is an operating system. This is the Mac operating system on the laptop. So this operating system itself is built using a programming language which the device can understand, which the hardware basically interacts with a set of machine instructions. This machine instruction is generated with a programming language, right? So why is it called a programming language? It is very simple. If you draw an analogy as to how do you interact with humans in real life, you choose a language. You can either interact with a person who knows, like, you can choose English with a person who knows English. You can choose Hindi if he knows Hindi. You can choose any other languages which that particular um, human knows, right? So that is a language. Similarly, a device can basically understand. It has some capability of understanding some language. You can you can integrate the language translators into your device so that it basically starts understanding whatever language you're writing in. So for example, my particular computer has Python library installed. It has that particular Python core kernel installed, right? So if I write any Python program, it has the ability to translate whatever I have written into something that the device will then use to execute the commands, right? So that is why it is a language. Now it is not a human language, it is a device language. So that is why we call it a programming language. In short, that is what it means. All right. All right. So let's look at the book definition of a programming language, and we'll discuss the terminologies there so that you get a fair bit of idea of what we're talking about here. Okay. So programming language is a formal language which comprises a set of instructions that produce various kinds of output. Programming languages are used in computer programming to implement algorithms. This is enough for you to understand what a programming language is. Comprises a set of instructions. So you can see in the picture on the right hand side, they've written some commands here. There's some printf, say hello, something like that. This is a C programming language. So uh, people who know C will understand what is happening here. But you don't need to understand exactly. We are going to learn Python. So let's focus on Python here. So all of these statements basically are called a set of instructions. Like together, this set of commands is going to give you a result. That is the result that you're looking for, right? So the output is generated based on the sequence of commands that you have written. Now, the sequence of commands that you have written should actually make sense, right? Only then will you get the desired output. If it does not basically make some logical sense, it's not going to give you the desired output. So a set of instructions which are written in a particular manner is basically called algorithm. That is what an algorithm means. All right. So yeah, that's basically what a programming language is. Now let's compare the popular programming languages that you have. Okay, so you can see in this particular table that it has here, the programming languages are listed in this first column, and then you have some basic comparisons as to what kind of support it has. All right. So some of the most famous languages, if you remember, the C and C++ from Microsoft, which was like the most popular programming language a few years back. Then after C, C++, we had Java come in. Then we have, let's see, we have Python 2.x, Python 3.x. We have PHP, which was also a craze at one point of time. COBOL and stuff. These are very old languages. All right. .NET. Yeah, you have Visual Basic. So yeah, some of you might have worked in some of you are completely new. So that's not an issue. But these are the programming languages that we have to our disposal. All right. Now, Python, right? So we are talking about Python. So if you see Python 2.x, 3.x, these are just versions of Python that have come out, and there was a fair bit of difference between Python 2.x and 3.x. All right. Now for all our use cases, for our course, everything that we are going to learn is basically, we assume that we are going to write it in Python 3.x. We're not going to use 2.x. It's already like 3.x is the updated version here. All right. So we'll stick with Python 3, and whatever we write will work in Python 3. All right. Now, Python is a recent trend in development these days. Before that, we had C, C++, and all of these things. So why is it that Python is so popular? So there are a few reasons why we have chosen Python, right? So let's look into Python. I'll tell you very briefly as to why Python is so popular. So first of all, Python is readable. Okay, the code that you write in Python is very readable. Now, what does readable mean? All right, when you write a piece of code, it can either be something like what you had seen here, something like this, wherein there's a lot of technical keywords that you need to use. All right, it's still not very difficult to understand. There's printf and stuff like that. But on the other hand, there's something like writing commands in almost the same manner like we speak to each other. Let's say we speak in the manner that I'm delivering the lecture. So you could basically write it in simple words like print something, print my name. All right. And the language is able to interpret, like it is able to understand what you're trying to say here. You don't need to include some library and then need to write some technical keywords as to this dot this, something like that, right? You can just simply state print something and it will understand what you're trying to say. So that is some kind of natural language support that Python has, and that makes its code readable. All right. If you're experienced with Java, you have to use the complete object structure like system.out.println and things like that, right? You don't have to do that with Python. That's what I'm trying to say here. It's much more readable, much more concise to write codes. All right. So for the developer as well as a person who is looking at someone's code, it is very easy to read. Python codes are very easy to read. So that's code readability for you. All right. What else? The other syntaxes. So most of the programming languages have these semicolons towards the end to signify that a statement or an instruction is complete. Okay. Now, Python does not use semicolons. Python basically uses new lines, and the new line is basically how it judges that one instruction is complete. All right. So that adds to the white space and the new lines. It basically adds to the code readability. All right. So we'll come to the exact details of it when we start writing the Python code. Currently, whatever I'm saying, it's mostly on the surface, so you won't be able to practically see what I'm trying to say here. But just keep it in mind, and it'll help if you can take down notes, so that let's say when we start the actual coding and stuff, you can refer as to exactly what we had discussed today and see the comparisons. All right. So that will help you mostly. Okay. Now, what else? So code readability is one, and that it achieves through a lot of things: new lines, word indentation, and all of these things, white spaces. All right. The second bit of it, Python as a language has a very good computational power to it. All right. What do I mean by that? So basically, if you have a lot of heavy calculations to be done, right, a lot of mathematical calculations that needs to be done in your project, so something like that is very easily handled by Python. It does not put on restrictions like other languages, Java, C, C++. There are some restrictions on the length of the numbers, the maximum number that can be stored in a particular data type, and things like that happen. That's regular for a normal programming language. But the same thing, when you compare it with Python, you can see that Python has a lot less uh, these kind of stuff that you want to get into, lot less of restrictions that the user has to keep in mind while developing a code. Okay. So in that way, a lot of mathematical calculations, a lot of these things are basically something that Python has an inherent capability for. All right. So if you have a project that demands a lot of computational complexity, it makes sense to go ahead with Python. All right. And similarly, other languages have a different set of advantages to it. But yeah, Python is built in this way that a lot of mathematical calculations can be done. And yeah, if I ask you, okay, Python has better computational power than Java or .NET. Yeah, like we can kind of agree on that, that Python has a bit of advantage over Java and .NET. But like the specifics of that is dependent on your use case, of course. But yeah, that's it. All right. So if I ask you, what are some applications or use cases or some projects that you can think of wherein computational complexity will be your demand? Any fields that you know of? Yeah, AI, ML, data science, anything related to something like this would probably require a lot of computations. And that is why you would have known that Python is mostly used in these kind of scenarios. If you're going to use ML, AI, data science, whatever, things like these generally make use of Python. As well as yeah, things like visualization, parallel computing, also web development in general. If you have something like a stock development app which is hosted on the web, it involve a lot of calculations there as well. So in general, Python can have a large number of use cases because it does not have restriction, but it does have a lot of advantages. All right. So for web development in particular, if you want to use Python, there's a framework built on top of Python called Django. And Django lets you use Python for everything related to your web, whatever. Like you can see this website that is built here that I'm browsing. So anything related to this that you want to build a web app, you can basically go ahead with Django. And the code that you will write will basically be in Python. Django is a framework built on top of Python. All right. So that's basically your use cases with Python. Now, let's open up the Python background for you. Okay. So Python is an interpreted high-level general-purpose programming language. It was created by this person called Guido van Rossum in 1991. And I'll come to these terminologies in a bit, but let's go ahead. Python's design philosophy emphasizes code readability. So we've talked a lot about code readability with its notable use of significant white space. Its language constructs and object-oriented approach aim to help programmers write clear, logical code for small and large-scale projects. All right. So this basically sums up why Python is used in a lot of scenarios. All right. So let's decode whatever they're trying to say here. So what is an interpreted language? So any programming language needs to have a translator. Like if you want to understand, let's say Japanese, so there needs to be a translator for that. Either you could be the translator for yourself, or if for people who don't know Japanese, there will be a translator with you, and only then would you be able to understand that. Or let's say you'll have a Japanese to English dictionary or something like that. So that's basically the translator is helping you to understand a particular language, right? Now, so similarly, for our device which is using a programming language to understand anything, you have to have a translator for it. All right. Now, the translator can be the translation between Python to machine language code, whatever the machine can understand, can be done either through a compiler or an interpreter. There are two types, two categorizations to translating your code. All right. So your programming language can either be a compiled programming language or it can be an interpreted programming language. All right. Now, what is the difference between the two? A compiler basically takes the entire set of instructions, compiles it into machine readable code, and then you can basically run that particular bit of code. This happened with C and other languages. All right, so there's a compiler there. On the other hand, an interpreter does not have to compile it before running the code. An interpreter does it parallelly. Like you write one statement, it is able to take statement by statement as and when you write, and then basically dynamically all the translation happens. So you don't have to have a different step in between. The whole translation can run parallelly while writing the code. Yeah. So write the code and you run the code. It is as simple as that. Write and run. Okay, there's no compilation time in between. So that is what I mean. If you have a compiled language, you have to have a compilation time in between. You first compile and then you run the code. So that doesn't happen with Python. So that's kind of an advantage if you look at it, that you don't need to spend extra time there. You simply write your code, you run the code, everything is taken care of by the translator, your Python source, whatever you have installed on your machine, right? So that is the first thing. The second, high level. It is a high level programming language. Now, what do we mean by a high level programming language? Um, let's look at the definition. Computer science, a high level programming language, is a programming language with strong abstraction from the details of the computer. In contrast to low level programming language, it may use natural language elements. Okay, so we have already discussed a bit about this. It is just another way of presenting it to you, right? But in simple language, a high level programming language lets you write programs which does not have to necessarily deal with machine level elements. You don't have to think about whether I do have so many cores to make use of, whether I do have the processing power, whether I do have uh, the proper amount of memory, the register size, and all of these are very specific to the device that you are running your code on, right? But you don't need to get into all of this if you're writing it in a high level programming language. A high level programming language will take care of most of these stuff for you automatically. It has that capability to abstract things out. So when you're writing in Python, you will never feel as if you have to take care of the machine elements by yourself. Make sense? A high level language will abstract it for you. It will make sense to write in some manner which does not involve you getting into the details of your device. Okay, so this basically means that you can install Python almost on any device, and it'll basically run the same code that you have written on one machine will be able to run on any other machine that you write, because the Python language, the library, will take care of all the machine language stuff for you. All right, so that's what this means. And finally, we have a general purpose adjective for our programming language. What does general purpose mean? Now, if you compare this to some other languages, like let's say for JavaScript, also is one of the other popular languages that people use in conjunction with Node.js on the back end. JavaScript specifically was built to be used on this particular web interface. It was used as a scripting language that is understood by browsers only. All right, but Node.js came in, gave it a runtime and all of these things, but that is a different use case. The specificity of being used in a browser is what makes JavaScript a specific scripting language. It is not meant for a general purpose programming language. All right, but Python does not have any such restrictions. It was released long back in 1991, and it does not ask you to use in very specific scenarios. So that is why it is called a general purpose programming language. Use it wherever it makes sense. In simple words, that is what it means. Wherever it makes sense to write codes in Python, you can use Python freely. You don't need to worry about anything else. All right. So that's what a general purpose programming language is. What is the difference between scripting and a programming language? There's no hard and fast difference between those definitions. You just have to understand what the objective was. When JavaScript was developed, it was the whole objective was the only browsers could understand JavaScript. All right. At that point of time, we did not have external sources or servers understanding JavaScript. only clients had browser. Clients as in users having a laptop or a desktop. Only those browsers like Google Chrome, Internet Explorer, only these softwares could understand JavaScript. So it was a scripting language for the browser. All right. But Python is a general purpose programming language. You need to have a Python library, install it wherever you want, and you can basically start running Python code like that. All right. But you can't do that with JavaScript. If I ask you, not like if I want you to run programs inside a terminal, let's say, right? So you cannot run JavaScript code inside a terminal specifically, but that has changed with the incoming of Node.js and stuff. But let's forget about Node.js for now. JavaScript as such is not a language that can be handled by a terminal. It's mostly meant for a web browser. So that's the difference between the two. Python is a general purpose programming language. You just take the library and start writing in Python. All right. Okay, cool. Okay, HP has a question. If I want to go for web development, then what do I go for? So if you're specifically getting into web development, you have both options, as you have said. JavaScript can also help you with web development. Python can also help you with web development. All right. These are the two most popular languages right now. All right. Now, which one do you want to go for? Is mostly a personal choice. There's a like it's mostly a choice that you want to follow. All right. JavaScript can be a good option if you are interested in how things are. Both are coming from a different background. JavaScript is mostly a functionally written language, whereas Python has its roots somewhere in the object oriented approach and stuff like that. So it's up to you. Explore both of them, see which one makes sense to you. But both of them are very popular, and both of them have a lot of applications and scopes in the future. All right. Yeah, Python can be used for web development. Yeah, there's this. I told you about Django, right? So that's how you use it in web development. Okay. Cool. So that's your background on Python. So let's go through our bullet points here. Introduction to programming. You know what is programming, comparison of the programming languages, why Python, reason for popularity we've covered. So the applications wherein we have discussed where Python makes sense to use: web development, yes, of course; software development, computational mathematics, which involves AI and all of those things; and system scripting like data scraping and all of those things. All right. So all of these are applications of Python, and many more. Like there are many subsets to each of these. So basically Python is a very general purpose language, can be used anywhere. Okay. Now, so we have covered most of the introduction to it. Now we can basically start getting our hands on with Python. Like how does it look? Where do you run it? And all of the actual tech questions that you have. All right. So, uh, you know the features. It is interpreted, it is a natural language, it is an object oriented language. Okay, I'm not talked about object oriented, so let us briefly cover that as well. You could see here its language constructs and object oriented approach. So this is one terminology that you'll come across a lot: double OOP. Okay, this is an object oriented programming short form, right? So object oriented basically means let's say, for example, in your real world scenario, you interact with a lot of living and non-living things, right? And all of these things can actually be referred to as an object. So you can interact with a table, you can interact with your chair, you can interact with your family, which comes under the living categorization. You can interact with your pets, you can interact with your mobile phone, you can interact with your laptops. So all of this basically can be called an object, right? Now take this concept and put it inside a programming language. If you're writing a program, the program can be oriented in a way so that you can refer to some entities inside the program as objects. All right. So an object inside a program will basically have some data associated to it, and there'll be some functions which could be used, which can be applied on that particular data to get the results. All right, so that is what object oriented programming is. Now let's say for let's look at it with an example. All right, let's take a program wherein you have to build a calculator with Python. All right, now this calculator program that you have to write, it will basically have some objects associated. So can you think, if you take up a project of a calculator, what are the objects here? What are the possibilities of an object inside the program? Addition is a function, number is a data. You have to combine both of them. All right, so think of a calculator in real world. So you have buttons in it, right? Now each of these button can basically be an object for you, a button object. How? So basically each of these buttons will have some data associated to it, right? That data is basically the symbol or whatever number is printed on that particular button. That is a data for that button. Now imagine if that button object does not have an associated data. It does not have any symbol printed on the button. All of the buttons would be blank. Would it make sense? No. So this associated data gives meaning to the object. What is this button used for? So you have a plus button or a button labeled 3. So the 3 basically is the data associated with that button. The plus is the data associated with a different button. And that is how you identify different objects. Okay. Plus button is an object. Every button is an object, but each button basically has a different data and a different function. So the plus button has a function of what? Sorry, Gagan, can we please stop your screen share here? Sorry. Yeah. Yeah, sorry for the disturbance. So yeah, the plus button basically has the data symbol as a as a plus symbol, and the function of, just a second, the function of the plus button is what? To add the two numbers, right? Similarly, let's say there is a number button labeled 3, but the data associated with it is number 3, and the function related to it is to use the number 3 in the expression. So you can do 3 plus 5. So each button has a meaning to it. So each button is an object, is what I mean to say. So whenever you write a program, object oriented approach basically means think of everything that you write in a manner wherein everything can be divided into objects. All right, and each object will have some data, each object will have a function. So that is one approach towards programming, and Python does have an object oriented approach to it. All right, so when you write programs in Python, we could look at it in a manner that this is one object with a particular function and a particular data associated to it. So that's what it means. All right. So once you start writing code, you would understand more of how real world translates into object oriented approach. What about class? So class is a related terminology. When you have objects, you can group objects, related objects, into a class. All right. So there, let's say you people are individual objects, right? A person object. Nikhil is one person, Atanu is one person, Pritish is one person. Each of you are objects. But I can club you in a class because all of you are commonly taking this particular lecture and learning from it. You are attending this Python lecture, right? So you are a class of people, a class of students, let's say. Each student is an object, but the whole clubbing of it is basically a class. So that is what a class means. A group of objects, group of related objects is a class. All right. Cool. So yeah, enough of the object oriented discussion here. I think we should now just get into what is natural language. Someone was asking. It's basically whatever we have discussed. You can write it in something which is very easy for you to read and understand. Something as simple as print whatever. That is natural language support. all right, instead of writing very technical stuff, all right. System.out.println in Java, that involves a bit more understanding of technical aspects, but that's not the case with Python. So that's the natural language or a high level language, but whatever we were talking about, somewhere there. All of these are related concepts. All right. Now, yeah. So for the hands-on, you can see I already have my Python library installed here. You might have received the email yesterday wherein the instructions were shared with you how to install Python on your Windows or your Ubuntu machines, right? So if I simply type Python here, you'll see it'll take me to the Python 2.7 prompt, which I don't want. All right, this is called a prompt or Python shell. These are the terminologies used. A Python shell or a prompt is this, but I do not want it to be the Python 2.x prompt. All right. So what I do is I write a command exit, and to run my Python 3 version, I have to write Python 3, and this will take you to the Python 3 command. Okay, command prompt. So you'll not get a warning anymore. All right. So this is a Python 3 prompt for you. Now, people who do not have this installed, I'll request you to go back to the email yesterday, follow the instructions for your Windows or your Linux, whatever machine you have, and install Python for yourself. And then from tomorrow onwards, as and when we write code, you can basically go back and practice for yourself. All right. So I'll show you how and where to write codes. Basically, what is the format we are going to use. All right. For today, at least, we are not going to create separate files, or we are not going to use anything external for now. I'm just going to show you how to use Python in the shell. This is not the best way, of course, but this is just an introduction. So I told you about Python commands, right? So you can see I've written a Python command here, exit. So once you get into the prompt, how do you get out of it? This is the command that we have used. This is your first Python command. Exit, and this is a function, so you have these parentheses. So you simply write exit and you press enter, so you'll get out of the prompt. Okay, so the first command for you in Python is exit. All right, now let's get back into the prompt and write something else. Okay, okay, so we are talking about print. So let's say I'll type the word Python itself. All right, print Python. You can see how easy it is. I don't need to include any library. I don't need to call a particular class or anything like that. I simply write print Python and you're done. That is the advantage of using Python. Something as simple as that. Let me press this, and can everyone see this? Okay, let me zoom this. Can everyone see this being printed out here on the terminal here? Right. Now, similarly, you can do some other printings here as well. Let's say I want to print a number added to another number. All right. So let's say 32 plus 13. What do you think will be the output? 45, right? So when I press enter, you can see 45 is the output here. Make sense? Now, yeah, we can basically play around with this. Let's say I give you a very big calculation to do. Print 581 divided by 31. So this is the answer. All right. So this is your Python shell. You can use this to play around with if you have your Python installed for now. Okay. Now, think about this. This Python shell will let you play around with a bit of code, but this is not how we are going to use it for our purposes later on. Why? Because if you have to write like a 5, 6, 100 lines of code, let's say, not one command, you have to build a set of instructions here. This is only one instruction. Okay. So if you have to write, let's say a 100 lines of code, it does not make sense to write here. Why? Because you'll not be able to save it. First of all, you need to save your bit of code for running in different places. You cannot copy paste your code here and there. You will just write it here and it'll just get lost, right? So shell is okay for testing out stuff, but to write your pieces of code, it's mostly recommended that we create a new file and then we run those files. So all of this will get into from tomorrow. All right. how to write a new file, how to run the Python, this thing, what is an editor, what is a console, and all of these things we'll understand. But for now, I think we can close Python off here uh, while I take up some doubts from you people, and also some other things that would be your doubts, or like would be your questions regarding the course in general. All right. So I'll wrap this up here. I think this is enough Python for today. All right. Uh, so exit is my command here. Okay. Now, tomorrow we will start writing codes in Python, simple 2 lines, 3 lines of code. And day after we'll get into, I'd shown you this division, right? Day after the Python syntaxes and everything, we have your Python data types to be covered. All right. So this will happen on day 3. So our demo classes will include these features of Python. Now, apart from that, you might have a question as to what all we'll be doing in the main track and stuff like that. So first of all, as I've already told you, the recording will be given to you for the demo classes as well as the main track classes when we have that. All right. Yeah, tomorrow also 7 and Friday also 7, you'll have this class. All right. And after the class, you'll get your recordings. Now, similarly for your main track classes, when you get into the main track, all of those who register for the main track will have a separate Slack group. Okay, Slack is a messaging app similar to your WhatsApp and stuff like that, mostly used by companies. So we'll add all of you who have registered for the main track. You'll have a Slack group for yourself where you can interact with me, you can interact with your other students and stuff like that. And the recordings there would be shared to you mostly in a Google Drive folder or something like that. So you will always have a recording for whatever classes we have. So don't worry about the recordings. All right. If for some reason you want to go back and revise and stuff like that, so you'll have that for yourself. Now, apart from that, in the main track, we also have coding challenges and assignments. Why? Because this is a programming language course that we are having. So you cannot expect to learn Python if you're not practicing it on the side. So for the demo classes, at least I'm not going to give you any homework. It does not make sense of as of now. But once you register into the main track, we'll be having regular coding challenges, we'll be having assignments, and we'll be having discussion over Slack with your whole class group, all right, with individual students. So that's the second thing. After your course completes, towards the end, we will be having a capstone project. All right. So the topics you could basically choose from a list of suggestions that we have for you. So you can use a topic and build a project around that particular topic. So that will be your capstone project. This will be towards the end when we are finally done with the learnings of Python. All right. You know the syllabus of Python that we have. So you can see the capstone project towards the end. So that's the project I'm talking about right now. All right. And once that is done, after the capstone project, you're basically graduated, you know Python well. We'll be providing a certificate of completion for you. All right. So people who have questions about certificates and stuff, so you will definitely get that too. All right. Yeah. After class certificate. Now, if you have any questions, please let me know. This is your time. I can solve any doubts that you have, or if you have any other questions, any non-technical questions that you have should be fired to the python@atinu.com email that I've told you. So any other questions for me, you can let me know. Okay. Capstone project are in groups or individual one? This will be individual capstone project. Where is the registration form? So all of the main track related things will, it's best you, just a second. So Shravan, I'll come to you. Be patient. All the main track questions, I'll tell you, you should be better if you uh, fire the mail to python@ateneo.com, the this thing that I have told you. All right. Now, just a second. Why you don't need to paste your question multiple times, people. I'll come to the questions one by one. Okay. I do have to get some time. All right. So one by one. If you have installed Python, you don't need to install Python 3, because mostly whatever you've installed, if you follow the instructions correctly, it will be the correct version. So no need for that. Duration of this course, this is a 1 month course. We have already told that. How do you register for the main class, stuff like that? It will happen in due time. uh, you'll get the details over your email. We'll add you to the Slack workspace, so no worries about that. We'll come to that. Currently, just focus on getting your demo classes right, and once you get that right, you will have a fair bit of idea of and how we conduct our main track classes. All right, so don't worry about that. We'll take it step by step. All right, otherwise it's too information overwhelming. All right. DS Algo will not be covered in the course. This is a very specific Python course. You can see the syllabus there. We've already shared that with you. So I think most of the questions that are coming here, you have not gone through the email or you have not received the email. So we'll send out an email shortly. So stay tuned for that. You'll get a fair bit of idea after you read the email. So please go through the email properly. When will the Python course end? In 1 month. Haven't received any setup instruction. Okay. So we'll send that to you, Balaji. Don't worry. So yeah, Sandeep, you got the mail address here, right? Divyam has posted this, so you can python@atenu.com. All right. Okay. Cool. Is this the main screen for writing? What is the capstone project? Webhub. This is not where we'll be writing our course from tomorrow. So stay tuned for tomorrow's class. I'll let you know how we proceed with it. So all of these will be covered. What is capstone project? Is a project that will be built based on your understanding of Python after the end of the course. All right. This is a basic Python course, correct, Atanu? I did not have any technical background. Is this course useful for me? Of course, like this course is one of those courses which we will recommend to freshers, because this is built right from the fundamentals. As you have seen today, all of the things that I've explained, probably for a developer who's already experienced, he would know this, right? But we have taken time to go through it right from the beginning. So yes, this is a course that is actually a lot helpful for beginners. All right. You'll get a recording for today's class. Yes, of course. Everyone who is here will get a recording. All right. If for any reason you have a mistake in your email addresses, I have already shared your point of contact. python@ateneo.com is your email address. For any problems that you have, please ping us on that. Okay. Now tomorrow's class, day after tomorrow's class, all will be held at 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. again. So be here by 7 p.m. I'll start the class at 7. Okay. Same link. Weekends, yeah, of course. So for the main track, when we have weekend classes, we'll let you know, right? Like, don't worry about those weekend classes right now. Once Friday's demo classes end, we'll chalk out the whole thing and send you the entire detailed steps for the next main track registrations. Non-IT branch placement. I understand that. For non-IT branches, yes, this is of course good to learn Python, but as far as placement goes, you'll need to work on your basic Python knowledge. You'll have to pick up a specialization if you want to get into something like that. But of course, first let's focus on your fundamentals. If you get Python right, only then will it make sense for you to sit for the placements for Python specific jobs, right? So that's a separate thing altogether. So let's come to it in some time. Um, which ID are you going to use? So it depends. I'll take you through a lot of. I'll personally I would be using Visual Studio Code. You could use anything that you wish, but also there are online editors for beginners. I'm mostly short codes. I'll mostly be going to use online IDs like REPL and all of these things. All right. Okay. Will we learn advanced Python? No, this is a Python um, basic course, right? This is not about all the extra libraries that you must be thinking. I don't know whose question is this, but I am not sure about what you mean by advanced Python. This is a course meant for beginners. It will start right from the fundamentals and then go deeper into whatever we have designed for you. So you can look at the syllabus and see if what you think you're going to get out of it, if it matches with that. All right. Yeah, regular expressions, of course, this we cannot do without that. I think so towards the end we'll talk about regular expressions, of course. uh, I don't see the syllabus. It, you can scroll up. Yeah, Divyam has shared that right again. So this is the syllabus for you. Okay. I think I've answered most of the questions coming in. Now all the other are basically duplicate questions which must have already been answered. All right. All the other payment and registration related questions, again, the email. So I've told you this multiple times. I think that's it. Um, cool. I didn't answer you. Sachin, what was your question? Can you repeat it for me? I think I must have lost it somewhere in the scrolling thing. Does this also covers API and GitHub? A bit of it, yes, of course. But only a bit of it. We're not going to go into the details of it. Does any CHash.net class is conduct? Okay, Sachin, no. In there's no C hash or .NET class matlab, being conducted with us. Okay, I hope that answers your question.